Welcome back to the Cannabis Corner. I'm your humble co-host. And today, once again, we're diving back into politics because politics shapes the direction that countries go concerning laws. In this case in point, the legalization of marijuana. Now, obviously, a lot of states across the country have already taken the step, including Colorado. Others have decriminalized it, as well as legalized industrial hemp. And the majority of the Democrat presidential candidates, as we went over a few weeks ago, are in favor of, at the very least, decriminalizing marijuana. And a number of them are also promoting the legalization of marijuana, with a few exceptions, including the former Vice President, Joe Biden. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. If Joe Biden doesn't know that, he shouldn't be president. To put it into terms the former vice president will understand, his ideas about pot are malarkey. By the way, this is from NBCnews.com, and any articles, as always, I read or go over, I always link below in the description section. So President hopeful Joe Biden told a crowd of Las Vegas rally-goers Saturday that if elected, he will not legalize marijuana because he said there's not enough evidence as to whether or not it's a gateway drug, even though there's been countless tests over the years and decades. There's plenty of evidence, folks, and it's not. But Biden's comments are also plenty of evidence that this man is out of step with the times, with the Democratic voters, and with the needs of the people of color. We can't have a Democratic nominee, let alone a president, who still believes that weed and the people who smoke it are the enemy of the people. We already have one of those. Quote, the gateway drug is a nasty old phrase that stuffed shirted conservatives and anti-weed apologists have spewed in the 1960s and the 70s to demonize not only hippies, but also people of color. Suggestion that this will be foisted on children who should soon find themselves irresistibly attracted to heroin or later cocaine or meth. Stacks of propaganda videos are produced to strike fear in people about the dangers of grass, quote unquote. But there is literally no clinical evidence that proves that marijuana is the gateway to anything other than maybe a pizza delivery bill and a burn mark on your parka. Okay. Even the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which refuses to acknowledge any new research on marijuana and stubbornly insists that people classified as a Schedule I substance, says, quote, the majority of people who use marijuana do not go on to use other harder substances. Other data shows that marijuana users compared to alcohol, nicotine, cocaine use are the least likely to become dependent at all. Studies of high schoolers, however, point to the fact that a gateway drug does exist, and it's alcohol. But alcohol doesn't even have to be a gateway drug to be deadly. And to see the show Adam Ruins Everything on True TV, the comedian host Adam Conover offers research comparing alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. While alcohol kills 88,000 people per year, tobacco kills 480,000 people per year, cannabis kills 0 people per year. Biden clearly has his priorities backwards. When he should be directing his comments towards booze and cigarettes, he instead repeats old, unsustainable 70s claims that are as dead as disco. One day disco is going to come back. They bring back everything else. It'll happen eventually, sadly. Even if weed hasn't been demonized like it has been in the decades of yore, as it still is to this day, perhaps the elite of which Biden is a part of would be token at cocktail parties in D.C. instead of sipping martinis and whiskeys on the rocks. Yet, according to research, it's those martinis and whiskey on the rocks that are far more dangerous than marijuana. The bigger part of the picture that Biden's missing aside altogether is observed gateway drug statements. The only thing marijuana has ever been a gateway is the nation's overtly racist system. The legalization of weed is actually about addressing the overt nationwide criminalization of people of color who are caught in the snares of this country's racist marijuana laws. A disappropriate number of African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans are trundled in the jail more than whites for possession, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. Between 2001 and 2010, there have been 8 million pot arrests in the U.S. That's one bust every 37 seconds. Hundreds of thousands ensnared in the criminal justice system, according to the ACLU. And while Biden says legalization should be up to states, ignoring the fact that federal government, by classifying it as Schedule I substance, essentially creates a huge legal problem in states that do legalize and continue federal enforcement of banking laws. At minimum, candidates like Sanders argue that any form of criminalization disproportionately harms people of color from coast to coast. Quote, too many lives were ruined due to this disastrous criminalization of marijuana, Sanders, for instance, tweeted in October. Let's see, today I'm releasing my plan to legalize marijuana, executive action, expunge the past marijuana convictions, and invest communities most affected by the war on drugs. Sanders, notably, is 2 years older than Biden, so Biden's wrongheadedness isn't about age, it is instead about perspective, about being in step with the times and research, and about the science that proves what Biden is saying is absolutely false, or as he likes to say, malarkey. The best chance we have of defeating Trump in 2020, well, like I said, I'm not a fan of Trump, but I don't really want to go there. People can support and vote for whoever candidate they want to, but there is a number of Democratic candidates, as we went over a few weeks ago, that are very pro-legalization, and I think that's a very positive direction for the Democratic Party to take. And unfortunately, I don't like the divisiveness in this country on a number of issues, but at the same time, it is sad that we see individuals that are running for the highest office in our nation, like former Vice President and Senator Joe Biden, who at one point was the front runner, still holding on to this nonsense that marijuana is a gateway drug. And that's been proven false time and time again. And the system that we have is one of injustice when it comes to this particular issue. There is a lot of men and women across the country behind bars, and their crime is simply having the possession of cannabis. And that is true. There are a lot more people of color that are convicted. You know, the African American community, the Hispanic community. The reality is, times they are changing in this country when you have numerous states legalizing marijuana and decriminalizing it and also legalizing industrial hemp. It is time for our elected officials across the board to get on with the times, including those running for the presidency. Now, realize that this is not the only issue that is concerning Americans right now. There's a lot of other issues like unemployment, the national debt, the list goes on and on. But I do believe that part of the problem that we have in this nation is the fact that there's a lot of American citizens behind bars because of the fact they choose to consume and use cannabis, which is, like we've talked about, it's not a gateway drug. It should have never been classified as a gateway drug. There are definitely stuff out there far more dangerous, as mentioned, like meth, cocaine, as well as things that you can purchase as long as you're a legal age, like cigarettes, tobacco products, alcohol products. Now, is this problem going to be solved by simply electing a pro-legalization president? No, not at all. You have to get people in office at all levels of government. In Congress, you need to have pro-legalization senators, pro-legalization Congress representatives, as well as at the state and local levels. And you can see that already happening in other states throughout the country, and they have benefited because of that. And at the same time, I also believe in a blanket parole policy for those that are only guilty of one thing, and that's possessing marijuana. If they have nothing else that they were arrested or incarcerated for, then they should be released, they should be pardoned, they should have their record expunged. Most of us understand the need for a criminal justice system as well as jails and prisons for actual criminals, those that commit, robbery, assaults, as well as white-collar crimes, murder, rape, etc. I feel like we already have a large enough prison population already in the United States. And the fact that we have so many American citizens from all backgrounds and behind bars because of the fact that their states are their country, predominantly these federal laws, make it a crime still for you to possess and consume cannabis is beyond ridiculous. The positive is things are changing, and we hope that things will continue to go in that direction towards the path of legalization across the country for cannabis as well as industrial hemp. And in order for that to be accomplished and realized, we do not need a president like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's thoughts and perspective on this issue are that of the past, and it's time to move forward. So for any of you out there looking for a presidential candidate to support for 2020, I'm not here to tell you who to support or not to support. Like a couple weeks ago, as I mentioned, I did make a video going over, the 2020 presidential candidate's stance on marijuana. Feel free and go check out that video if you haven't had a chance to do so. But I will say this. If there are candidates that you should absolutely refuse to support, it is those that still have this mindset that marijuana is a gateway drug in order to justify keeping it illegal in this country, while at the same time, a lot of men and women still sit behind bars with only committing that one crime, which really, at the end of the day, shouldn't have been a crime in the first place. So, Joe Biden, in my humble opinion, you do not deserve to be our next president.